Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1524A, and today's date is March 18th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Global Economic System Has Been Put on Notice. Prepare yourself. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Bernie Suarez. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, and it will bring you to the interview, or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there, or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, scroll down, look over to your right, you'll see the video there, and you can play the interview right on the site, or you can go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been talking about how the entire economic system is an illusion, and Trump right now is pushing the agenda to crack this illusion wide open. And the central banks have been keeping this illusion for a very long time. They've been in power for a very long time, and we're approaching that time period where they're going to, and I'm saying just Trump and Patriots and many others, who are going to approach the central bank and make a move to get rid of it. Now, we need to understand that the gold price here in the United States and around the world has been manipulated by the central banks. It's been well documented. It's a fact. Even though the corporate media is not out there publicizing it, banks have gotten into trouble, and basically the central banks have a long and colorful history of manipulating the gold price. Now, central bankers, they're terrified of gold. They are terrified of gold because, one, it is an inflation barometer. It's an indicator of the relative strength of fiat currencies. The gold price influences interest rates and bond prices, and the central bankers, they don't want the everyday person to realize what gold is. And central bankers are very aware of gold. They hold large quantities of it in their vaults as a store of value and as financial insurance. But they're always on guard against allowing gold to be controlled by the free market. They need to control it. Now, the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlement, they have a law unto themselves. They don't answer to anyone. There's no government that controls them. They are their own entity. We need to understand that. The central bankers, they do not report to a government, to a people, to a group. They have no allegiance except to themselves. And what we're seeing is that the central bankers, since the 60s, have been manipulating the gold price in the public domain. Back then, and still today, they've been manipulating the gold through the London gold pool. And it has changed a little bit as we move forward, because back then, gold was held at $35 an ounce. And here, the U.S. Treasury and a consortium of central banks from Western Europe explicitly kept the gold price near $35 an ounce, coordinating their operation from the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, while using the Bank of England in London as a transaction agent. Now, this price manipulation broke down in 1968, when the Treasury ran out of good delivery gold, which triggered the move to a free market gold price. This is what also triggered the speculators looking for their gold and the central banks coming off their gold standard, and they brought the system onto the petrodollar system. And we can see that since this time, back in the 70s, the early 70s, when we came off the gold standard, they needed a way to control the gold prices. So what did they do? They created the paper market. The gold futures. They were launched in 1975. The primary reason for their introduction was what? To create an alternative to the physical market that would siphon off demand for gold, creating trading that would dwarf the physical market, which would also ramp up volatility, which in turn would deter investors From investing in gold. Gold futures are also fractionally backed and overwhelmingly cash settled because they don't have the gold to settle these transactions. The gold lending market is totally opaque and secretive, and though obligatory or voluntary reporting by either the central bank lenders or the bullion bank borrowers. The Bank of England has a major role in the gold lending market, as the gold used in lending is almost all sourced from the central bank custody holding in the Bank of England's vaults. There is therefore zero informational efficiency in gold lending, and that's the way the central bankers like it. They don't want anyone to know about anything. They don't want anyone to audit them. They want everyone kept in the dark. And if we take this a step further, even if you ask for a freedom of information request about gold lending, they're always shut down by the central banks. They will not allow this information out. They say, well, this is because of national security. This is why we can't allow you to have this information. Gold is very important in the entire system. This is why China, Russia have been amassing a huge amount of gold, because they're building that system out in the east, because they're getting ready to move everything from the west to the east. And this is why they spent a very long time keeping the gold price out. Can you imagine if they allowed the free market to set the price for gold? It would show the entire world that their system is a disaster. Their system does not work for the people. Their system imploded a long time ago. But by controlling everything, they're they're able to keep everyone in the dark. And this is what Trump and his administration are set out to do, to get rid of this system. Andrew Jackson, I said this so many times, he campaigned on getting rid of the central bank. Trump has Andrew Jackson hanging in his office. There's a reason for it. You just don't hang this individual in your office right behind you for no reason whatsoever. You do it for a specific reason, because that is exactly what his mission is. Not just his mission. And I don't want everyone to think that it's just Trump. There are many individuals, patriots, that are behind him, that are orchestrating and pushing out rogue elements within our government that were never supposed to be there, which took control and manipulated everything and basically kept the truth from us for a very long time. So Trump right now is pushing tariffs, pushing Germany, pushing the EU, pushing the central banks, and his targets are all these organizations. He's dismantling everything right now. He has put the global economic system on notice. That's what's happening right now. Now, who's very nervous about this? The central bankers. They're nervous. All those individuals that have built this system over the many, many years, they're nervous it's going to be taken away. And what we're seeing right now is that this system is basically dying. Actually, it has died. But the central bankers, by putting the World Trade Organization, NAFTA, well, they wanted TPP, but they couldn't get it, and everything else into place, they're able to keep the illusion alive. But when you start to break all these down and you start to remove each one of them and you dismantle it, the illusion starts to break away. The illusion disappears. The truth then comes out. You see the real picture of what the economy is really made of. And when people start to see this and people start to recognize this and they start to realize, well, wait a minute. The fiat system, the fiat system is destroyed. I mean, this is fake. The dollar is absolutely worth nothing because in a free market, the gold price is what? And we don't know what that is really. It could be 10,000 an ounce. It could be 20,000 an ounce. This is what's going to happen. It's not if, but when. The clock is ticking down, and we're heading towards that level. And we have been seeing indicator after indicator after indicator that there's a huge amount of problems in this economy. And I'm not talking about the stock market and all the fake statistical numbers that the government puts out, the Fed follows and lies about, because they told us a lie back in 2008. We're not forecasting a recession at any time. Everything's perfect. Everything is contained. Don't worry about it. We got everything under control. Oh, and by the way, once this whole thing disappears and the whole thing implodes, we're going to steal everything you have. That's what they do. I mean, let's look at another indicator right now. If we look at U.S. corporate debt levels, they stand above crisis highs, even as default rates among the most leveraged firms remain subdued. Now, let's go back to 2007, 2008, around that time period. And we look at the debt level. Well, we see the debt level at around 46%. Today, it's around 47%. We're way above there. But if we look at the high yield default rate at that time, we were at 15%. What's strange is that we're at 2% right now. The spread is just unbelievable. And if you go back in time, we've really never seen anything like this, except when the whole system starts to fall apart. That's when we see this. And if you go back to 2007 going into 2008, where the spread became the widest, and we've seen it every single time we're in some type of recession, that's where we are now. And looking at all other indicators, housing, GDP, we know a lot of this stuff is manipulated, but when we start breaking it down, we can see all the indicators are pointing to one thing, one gigantic crash. So prepare yourself, because we are headed towards a disaster. And it all depends on how bad it's going to be. Depending if the central banks control it, it's going to be awful. If the Trump and the Patriots control it, they're going to try to make it as soft as possible, but we will be going through a transition. We will see inflation. We will be coming off an old system, moving on to a new system. For those who can remember, think back to 1970. Those who can remember, think about all those individuals back then who couldn't find a job. All those individuals that have a very rough time making ends meet. The gas lines. This time it's going to be a little bit worse, because we're not coming off the gold standard going on to the petrodollar system, and we kept the reserve system. This time we were the reserve system, as present we're the reserve system. We'll be coming off that, and we will no longer be the reserve system. So the hit is going to be that much harder. So you're going to have to get prepared for it. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.